The story begins in a quiet corner of the county where I had chosen a home wrapped in peace, far from noise, control, and the reach of any HOA. For a while, life moved softly. The breeze was calm, the mornings gentle, and the silence felt like a blessing I had waited years to find. Then one day, that silence cracked. A group from the local HOA stood outside my gate, their faces filled with the kind of authority they believed they owned. They spoke as if every home in sight belonged to them, as if every neighbor lived under their rule. They told me I had to join their HOA, follow their standards, pay their fees, ask for approval even for simple things like the color of my door. I answered them with calm. I told them my property was outside their boundaries, outside their contracts, and firmly outside their control. But my refusal didn't sit well with them. They didn't like being told no. They didn't like discovering someone nearby wasn't under their command. The days that followed grew heavy. Notices I didn't ask for appeared on my fence. Letters filled with threats arrived at my door. They spread whispers in the neighborhood, calling me uncooperative, saying I was a problem that needed to be fixed. Still, I stayed patient, I waited. I hoped they would stop on their own, but power can make people reckless. Late one night, when the sky was dark and quiet, they returned. Their footsteps hid in the shadows. They thought no one could see them. They thought the smoke curling upward would go unnoticed. They thought a little fire would frighten me enough to bow, to sign, to surrender. They believed fear was stronger than truth, but they didn't know who I was. To them, I was just a new neighbor who refused to obey. What they couldn't imagine was that the person living in the silent house at the edge of their community was the federal judge responsible for reviewing HOA misconduct across the region. The very rules they twisted, the very laws they ignored, the very power they tried to force on me, all of it fell under the authority of my court. When morning came, they returned expecting victory. They came with confidence, ready to demand compliance. But instead of seeing fear, they found federal vehicles lining the street. They found investigators gathering evidence, and they found me not as the neighbor they tried to intimidate, but as the judge who now held every detail of their actions. Their voices trembled, their excuses faded, their power evaporated in an instant. The HOA thought I was powerless until the moment they learned the truth. And in the end, they didn't just face the neighbor they tried to control. They faced the judge they ultimately reported to.